Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about a handful of stories from when I was a kid, and it's going to be more like, I want to say in the age range of first grade mostly. I believe that's when all these took place anyways. So this is going to be in the actual form of a real video rather than like a short, unless it's on TikTok, then it's obviously going to not really matter, but on YouTube it'll be a video. So yeah. The first story I'm going to share it's going to be more lighthearted because it's like they're all going to be like some form of funny except for like the one. The one is like one of like the worst experiences I've ever had as a kid. So this story is when I was a kid, unless I'm mixing this with kindergarten, it's between either kindergarten or first grade. I can't quite remember. We had like these little cocoons, like butterfly cocoons. And I believe we even like had caterpillars that we quite literally were like taking care of in like a little tank. I don't know if anybody else at school did that, but that's what our school was doing at that time. And eventually, obviously, it's probably like some educational thing, like, oh, look at the caterpillars growing and becoming a cocoony thingy and it's going to be a butterfly. That's some educational thing, probably. Maybe it even was based off of the very hungry caterpillar, honestly. But I can't really remember that because, well, I don't know. I didn't always listen. But I do have a decent memory from my childhood, so that's probably why I can even remember any of these. So when the butterflies finally were like, fully developed and they came out of their cocoons, I basically was like first in line. Like, I wanted to beat all the other kids to holding it first. So like they were like, who wants to hold like the butterflies? And me and another kid, I think, or maybe it was just me, I forget, raised our hands. I think I was the quickest. They let me hold it first. And I was trying to be okay with holding it, but somehow, some way I ended up not liking it because it was a bug, or at least it felt like a bug to me. And I ended up getting squeamish and I dropped it on the ground. And I just remember all the other kids kind of like looking at me like I was like disgusting. They were like angry with me. They were like, wow. And they were like, don't let her touch that ever again. And it was just like this whole thing. It was just horrible. It was like, oh no. So then I just moped away, all sad because I just dropped this poor little butterfly. And then like everybody else, they would hold it and they would just turn to me. It was like absolutely humiliating. They'd like give me the side eye, and then they would release the butterflies and let it be free, and I was just like the mean butterfly abuser pretty much. So that's it for that one. The next story is when I was in first grade, and I was kind of a brat, but not kind of. So in first grade, it was a really weird time. My teacher got cancer, and my dad actually passed away from cancer, long story short, and seeing as this teacher of mine was like going through cancer, that made me feel really bad for her and stuff. And then we ended up getting a substitute teacher, but we also had a teacher assistant and we had some other dude also in. The teacher assistant was always there, but then her dad also passed away from cancer that year. It was just like this whole thing. It was kind of crazy. Everybody was like dying and it was kind of scary. But this story basically was like the teacher, pretty much the guy one, was like, alright guys, are you guys ready to have some fun and like play games? And I just remember being this brat because everybody's cheering about it being happy. And I said, aw. And I remember I was like joking about it as a kid, but somehow, some way, it became a big deal. And he just stopped and he's like, who said aw? And I like was gonna get clammed up and quiet because like as a kid and even still to this day, if somebody's mean or mad at me, I clam up and I get like anxious. I've always had like anxiety ever since I was young, and I just remember feeling it in that moment, but I didn't even like get a second to clam up because somehow, some way, everybody in the entire classroom of like 20 plus kids all shot their fingers to point directly at me. And it was very awkward. Even my at the time best friend quite literally pointed her finger at me So it was like everybody gave it away. But I remember at the time when my best friend also pointed her finger at me, I felt betrayed. So I sat there for a second, like, spaced out. And, like, they were like, why did you say aw? And, like, I could have said, like, I was joking. But it was, like, one of those things where I already felt, like, put on the spot and, like, really anxious. So I just kind of cleaned up and I just was like, I just don't want to play games in school. School's for learning. I want to do it outside of school. So what they did was they put a chair in the corner and they made me sit in it. And all the other kids basically was like, wow, this is so fun. And all the teachers kept saying, wow, it's so fun. Too bad somebody had to say aw, not play. So I just sat there sadly still, waiting until everything was over. And then finally, when it was all done over with, well, I don't remember what happened after that. I just remember sitting there humiliated, feeling. I actually think that the guy teacher was there, but I think that my teacher who got cancer wasn't out yet. I don't quite know. So my last story is going to be more of a scary childhood story for me that I don't look back at and laugh at all. And if I do laugh, it's probably just the scariness of me laughing. But basically, when I was a kid, I was like 6 or so, I had a really bad toothache. I had like a cavity in my tooth. I don't even know how I got it. I used to take care of myself when I was a kid, so it was weird and unusual, but nonetheless, it was a molar tooth and it needed to be pulled. That was just a straight fact. And as a kid, I used to not be scared of the dentist, so like I didn't really have a bad outlook on it. You know, I would have been like perfectly fine with just going to the dentist and whatnot. No fear in the world. I would have been perfectly fine. But the thing that ruined it was, once they put me under and everything was all good, I basically woke up mid-surgery and I did end up feeling everything that they were doing in my mouth. And I had been told before that if I did wake up ever, like, you know, let them know. I did let them know. But what they did was they ended up pushing me down, telling me to shut up and to stop because they're almost done and I'm going to mess it up, while I felt them dig it out and all this other stuff. It was like really terrible for me. So I felt it and I knew what was going on and I was very scared. So I came out of there with a gauze in my mouth crying. And my mom immediately was just like, well, what happened? And I told her everything and she did end up flipping out on them and she never took me back there again. But perhaps that could have been a pretty good thing to raise about a lawsuit. But I don't think my mom really thought about that at the time. But ever since then I've had a fear of the dentist. I still have one. So like, yeah, I genuinely don't like the dentist. But like, that's it for all 3 of my stories for now. If you guys have like any other suggestions for stories you guys would like to hear, let me know below. I'm open to sharing any other story. Have a great night or day. Bye.